Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video. Today is Stretch the Sketch, so this is the sketch we are using. And again, I am squishing that down into an 8.5 by 11. I wanted to use all scraps for this page. I have two 12 by 12s left in this collection, but I had accumulated a good selection of scraps throughout the first 4 pages I did, I believe. I think this is page 5, maybe 6 including the map page. But I wanted to really use this sketch. It was the perfect sketch to do some scrap busting because it incorporates a lot of different papers in narrow strips, and that's just the perfect way to get rid of a bunch of scraps that you have. I wanted to even use a scrap as my 8.5 by 11. I had a good chunk of this pink left over, but it wasn't quite big enough, so it's more like 7.5 by 10.5. I don't remember. I think it's like 10 inches by like 7.5 inches is what my layout ended up being. So just pretend it's 8.5 by 11 if you're trying to scrap lift this. But it didn't make too much of a difference for me because I'm a 12 by 12 scrapper. I know it's going to be matted on a 12 by 12 in the end anyways. So it didn't really matter to me that it was slightly less than that. But first thing I wanted to do, I had one 4x6, so that kind of helps with squishing down this proportion because instead of using one big photo and 3 small photos like they did, I'm just using one big photo and then I'll just have embellishment where they had other pictures. So that kind of helps with that. The biggest thing I needed to do is figure out what papers I wanted to use, what size strips, and some of these scraps were too short to be long strips, but I will just strategically use those behind where the photo is so that there can be a gap and you won't really know. Definitely wanted to use the yellow and the purple because those were already pretty good lengths. The blue one here is the one that was too short, so I'll just end up trimming that to make it look longer. I kind of debated on if I wanted to include the dark orange on this page. But I thought this would be a really fun page with all the different strips to really use all the colors and patterns that are in this collection. You guys know typically with Felicity Jane I like picking 2, maybe 3 colors to stick to on a layout. But I thought this would be a fun one to do multicolor and really get all the different colors used on here. So I did need a 12 by 12 eventually to mat this, and I really needed one more strip. So I thought that if I pulled in a wood grain, I could use a scrap of the wood grain as my last strip for the 8.5 by 11. So that's what I decided to do. I went to my trusty dusty little wood grain paper pad and pulled out this really nice neutral wood grain that I thought looked really nice with this collection. And then I just went ahead and gutted a section that was going to be covered by the 8.5 by 11 layout, so I can use this scrap here as my last strip that I needed for my little design. So that was just my way working around that. I really like this sketch too because a couple of the strips are skinny and look like they could be branding strips, so I decided to go ahead and go in with the dark orange, really use all the colors, and that way I can kind of get more scraps used up, and I love when I can use branding strips. So now it's just a game of getting all of these scraps glued together. I like the way they're sitting, and so I'm trying to glue them down without shifting things too much. So this is my roundabout way of doing that. I don't want to glue them. It would have been way easier if I just glued them to the pink layer, but as you can see, I'm going to have a wall of strips behind my photo, and so I want to gut, again, a huge section of the pink for another layout. I'm really trying to be frugal still, so that's why I haven't glued them to the pink layer yet, because once I have all these strips glued to my photo, I can gut another section of that pink. And I love this pink solid because the B side is that dark red, orangey red, and I just feel like I'll want that for another layout. So this is my roundabout way of doing that. I'm just trying to glue everything to each other in the photo so that it's independent of the background for now. And now I'm going in with that aqua piece. You can see what I mean. I'm trimming it in half, and I'll stick that on either side of the photo so it just looks like a longer strip, which I love to do with my scraps. Make them look bigger than they are. Do have that scrap to the left there of the orange and white pattern paper. use that to tie in. I just don't want that one branding strip to be the only dark orange that's on here, so I'll end up pulling that strip in too. But I'm going to go ahead and get the wood grain strip from that gutted section. I love this too because knowing it's going to be matted on a 12 by 12, this helps tie in this layout with the background, so the wood grain isn't really a surprise once you add it later, which I don't think it would be. I think wood grain is such a neutral pattern that you can add it in anywhere, but I kind of like that I have that one strip that's the wood grain that will be the background, so it just is all cohesive. And then for this tiny last little gap, I'm using that scrap of orange. And I'm glad I got that used up too, because I really feel like I needed to since I had the branding strip, but that gets that piece used up. And here are all my strips. So it's probably because I squished the layout down, but it looks a lot more crowded than the original sketch did, but I still really like it. So now that I have all of this glued together, I'm going to gut the pink section, and then I'll glue all of this down to the background. This was the majority of the work for this sketch, was getting all the strips organized. So now that all the strips are down, I really just need to do a little bit of embellishment and a title. So this was the first morning of our little mini honeymoon. We woke up and we had to be dressed for horse riding, which is why we're kind of wearing jeans and stuff, because we had horse riding first thing in the morning. But we got dressed and we went and we had breakfast at the grill, which was wonderful. Their food, I could not say enough about their food, is so good. And then we booked it over to the horse farm. We actually didn't have enough time to walk to the horse farm by the time we were done with breakfast because it took longer than we thought. So we had to hitch a ride on one of the employees' golf carts to get down there in time. But we still got there before the other people that the horse is with. So I didn't feel bad about being a tiny to that. But gluing everything down to the background now, so everything is connected, and then I can continue with my embellishments. So I don't have cuts on the left there, but I did want to use this little multicolor bunting piece because this is one of the few multicolored layouts I'm probably going to do this month. I love that the little bunting has all the colors from this collection, so I'm thinking I'll use that. But I'm not sure about the rest of the embellishment. I really feel like I want to pull from my stash to beef up my embellishment a little bit. So I do go in and pull out my little leftovers from the Amanda collection. There's a rainbow I used from this collection on a previous layout, and there's a rainbow in the Amanda collection that I thought coordinated really well with these colors, so I'll end up pulling that in too to finish out the embellishment, since I'm really only using the bunting from this actual Reese collection. I did pull in this little white tag from Ronnie. I really felt like I needed some white to break up all of these strips behind my embellishment so the little embellishment cluster wouldn't get lost with all the other paper that's going on. So I'm popping this rainbow up on some foam that'll go over that tag with the bunting layered underneath, which I think is really sweet. I love how that pulls all the colors together. But other than that, I don't really know what else to do for embellishment. And I know I want to pull in some of the hearts, but I kind of feel like on a layout like this, the design is what speaks for you the most. And I just don't want to clutter it up too much with embellishment because I love all the different strips that are going on. And I feel like I get busy really fast. So I'm going to go ahead and get the bunting down so this little corner is done. And then I know I'll incorporate some chipboard hearts here in the upper left-hand corner just so I have a little bit of balance. But the only other thing I pull in is like a puffy sticker from another collection. I really am leaning on my Felicity Jane leftovers from previous kits this month, which I love because I always worry when I have leftovers at the end of the month that they'll sit in my stash forever. So I'm happy that I can get those used up now. And Felicity Jane collections coordinate so well with each other. It's pretty easy to do. I just have to remember to pull them out when I have Felicity Jane stuff. So getting the rainbow glued down. I do need to do a title, and I'm thinking I will do the title on the outside of the actual layout along the 12 by 12. I know that this pink piece is actually smaller than 8.5 by 11, so if you are scrap lifting and doing an 8.5 by 11 with this layout, you can easily mat this smaller layout onto a bigger 8.5 by 11. Say the wood grain was an actual 8.5 by 11, and do it the similar way that I am, if that makes sense. You'll see in the close-ups I'll kind of crop this to what I mean correctly. Mine's a little bit smaller, which is why it looks a little different on the 12 by 12. But I think that little cluster is done. I did twine that my mom gave me for my birthday. She gave me a bunch of little like scrapbooky stuff in for one of my birthday presents, and one of them was different colored twines, which I love because I typically just have my black and white twine and my golden white twine and then my raw brown normal twine. So this white and yellow twine matched the yellow in this collection perfectly, so I got to pull that in too. For the title though, I did just want to go in with the flat stickers that Lisa included in this collection. This yellow matches the Reese collection perfectly, so I decided just to title it Husband and Wife. I really didn't know what else to call it, but this is our first day after the wedding where we're husband and wife, so I thought it was appropriate. And I really like that it was a longer title that could kind of fill up some space there along the wood grain side of the page. And I kind of feel like I know I want something else to add to the wood grain to kind of connect all of this to the layout. I didn't know what yet, but I knew my title needed to go there because I have all of these strips and I really didn't want to clutter it up too much. So I like that it's on the outside here along the wood grain. I'm just going back in and adding a little exclamation point. And that's my title. You can always make these flat stickers pop by outlining them in white or black. I've done that a lot in the past, but I kind of like how subtle it looks. It pulls that yellow in more, but it's not too in your face or distracting. So going in with the chipboard hearts just to pull some more pops of the different colors into different areas. I think this is where I go through my other Felicity Jane goodies to try to figure out another thing to embellish with. And I think this was the Gina collection, but there is a little aqua puffy sticker that says Where I Belong, which I thought was really appropriate since Marcus and I are together and you know. So I'm adding that to the top there to pull in some more aqua because I really just have the aqua from that one pattern paper strip. There's not really any other aqua on the page. So I really like that puffy sticker. Helped balance that a little bit, added a couple more chipboard hearts, and then this is where I get kind of stuck again because I feel like I did like justice to the challenge. I feel like I did the sketch. It doesn't feel done yet. I kind of felt like it looks too floaty. It needed a grounding element, and I really liked these darker blue hearts that I included on the page. I really added those because you have a dark teal in the rainbow and in the bunting of the really any of that dark blue in any of the pattern papers, but I love how it kind of draws attention to those darker hearts because it was really the only thing that was grounded. So I went back to my mom's goodie bag of embroidery floss and I found a gray that has this dark teal undertone and matched really, really well. So I will end up doing hand stitching around the entire 8.5 by 11. The title to the layout and add an extra element, which I really, really liked. So that made a huge difference. I usually do my stitches at 1/4 inch apart, but on this one I actually did my stitches a whole centimeter, and I actually really like how that looks. It really was just to save time because the longer your stitches, the less stitches you have to do. Which is my main reason for doing the centimeter, but I think it actually looks really nice with those longer stitches, and it took less time to do, which was nice. So now that I have the stitching done, now I feel like it's done. Here's my little 8.5 by 11, and then you'll see the other close-ups here in a second, but really sweet, fun layout. I had so much fun with this one. Make sure you check out everyone else who's playing along with Stretch the Sketch, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.